Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. My name is Elizabeth, and today we are going to be talking about the Pareto Principle. Have you heard of it? It's also known as the 80-20 rule. I'm going to share how you can use this, what it is, and why it's important for your life and your success. Let's do it. So in simple terms, and to get right to the point, the Pareto Principle or the 80-20 rule is simply saying that 20% of your inputs or your efforts or whatever you end up doing is going to be responsible for 80% of the results. And so this is critical to know because in whatever goal you're working on or anything that you're doing, it's typically the success that you have is going to be because of the 20% instead of every single thing that you do. But you have to do every single thing to get that 20% that gives you the 80% results. The point of this principle is to show that most things in life are not distributed evenly. Okay, so it's not like every time I post this, it's going to reach this amount of viewers. It's going to reach this amount of people. Every time that I put my products out for display, they're going to sold 10 of them every single day. No, it's going to be widely distributed, even with a workout, even if you do the same workout over and over again. Probably over time, there's that 20% where you really just hit it hard and you get those muscles and you're doing the exact thing that you need to do to get those results. But consistently over time, if you do that, you will have the 20% that leads you to your results. Okay, so a critical and a clear example of this would be in retail. So if you have products for sale and then you end up selling a ton of your products, it's actually kind of interesting to know that 80% of your sales is typically from 20% of your customers. So it's kind of crazy when you think about it, but you still have to put out all these products and advertise to other people, but it's going to be a smaller percentage that is responsible for the bigger picture. So how did someone find this out? Who figured this out? Who invented this? So I just wanted to share a little bit about the origin of the Pareto Principle. And it actually was named after an Italian economist. His name was Vilfredo Pareto. Okay, the Pareto Principle. It's interesting. A lot of things are named after the person, you'll find. And in the late 19th century, he actually observed that 80% of the wealth in Italy was owned by 20% of the people. So there's a ton of wealth out there, but most of it was owned by a certain 20%. And you can see that evenly distributed even today. And so when testing the principle, he also found out that 80% of the wealth and the land in almost all countries were controlled by 20% of the people, Pareto 1906. He also found this to be true when he observed his garden, finding that 20% of the pea pods that he had yielded 80% of the results. So he was the one who initiated this and who started this and discovered this principle and has found that it actually applies to multiple areas of your life. And you can use this with business, with finance, with your health, with relationships, with anything that you're doing in your life. Also see this if you are an owner of a company or if you're in management. You will typically see that you have so many great employees and people who are hardworking, they show up on time, they do what they're supposed to do, but then and they're responsible for a lot of the results, but then you're gonna also have a small percentage that's not just those high achievers and that gets you a ton of business and sales and results. You're going to have a small percentage that's going to be draining, that's not going to be doing what they're supposed to be doing, that's going to be causing problems. And so it's not the whole company is all a mess. That's typically not how it is. It's not just everything we're doing is wrong or nothing is going right. It's typically that 20% in any area. I wanted to give one more example that most people can use. It's actually something that helped, like when I was looking at minimalism, and typically we might have a closet full of clothes, but typically you actually wear about 20% of your closet. So even though you have 100% of items, the things that you wear the most are actually about 20%. And that's why some people chose like a capsule wardrobe, because they're like, I'm wearing these things anyways, I can just get rid of all the other 80%. Okay, so now that we know about the Pareto Principle, we know who started it, who founded it, who invented it, and why it's important, and kind of a few examples. Let's talk about how you can actually use the Pareto Principle in your life, for your relationships, for your business, or whatever you are working on. So first, let's go ahead and talk about time management. So the Pareto Principle with time management, what you need to know about this is to say, hey, 20% of what I do is going to be responsible for 80% of my results. So what are the most important things that I need to do for my business, for my health, for whatever you're working on, to focus on that and actually do that, and then the rest doesn't matter. So in your day, when you're planning for the week, in whatever areas of your life, whether that's health, your relationships, whether that's a business or an idea, it's like, okay, I have to do this is responsible for the success of my business. These little things, I identified that. You can reverse engineer and just figure it out. and then go, okay, I need to make sure that every day I at least do these 3 things. If I do these 3 things, then the rest won't matter and I'll still hit where I want to hit. Or if you want to have a good relationship, what are a few key things that you can actually do or what I can actually do to help nurture my relationship and make it better? And so make sure I do those 3 things or however many things those are each day. And the same thing for your health. Okay, if I make sure I exercise, I eat 2 good meals, whatever, then I'm going to be much better off. So identify those few things and then you can manage your time better and focus on at least let me get those things done. And then whatever else happens in the day, it happens. I'm at least going to be on track for my goals. Right, next, how can we use the Pareto Principle in your relationship? So the same thing goes, you might have a bunch of friends, but actually there's probably 20% of your friends that are responsible for your happiness, for your growth, for improvement, that you support each other, that you actually enjoy hanging out with. And so you can prioritize those people and make sure you spend time with those people and nurturing those relationships. Also, on the same token with relationships, 20% of the actions are typically going to be responsible for some of the problems in a relationship. So if you can kind of identify what are those things that we always get in an argument about, or what is something that typically becomes a problem for us or that bothers us, if you can identify those small things, you're going to eliminate a lot of the issues. Right, now with goal setting. So I kind of talked about this with time management, but basically if you have a goal, what is the one thing you need to do to achieve that goal? Then go, what is the second best thing I can do to achieve that goal? And so through your day, start with the most important thing and then move your way down. And then you will eventually be able to reach your goal instead of just going aimlessly, like I need to achieve my goal. How do I achieve my goal? Specifically set an intention and say, what is the most important thing? And then do it. Right, another great area, we all have problems that come up in our lives, but we need to figure out how to tackle them and we need to take ownership and be a problem solver. And so you can follow this process in relation to the Pareto Principle to solve your problems more effectively and efficiently and actually spend time on ones that matter. So to help prioritize these solutions, you first want to identify the problem or the problems that you're trying to solve. Number 2, you want to identify what the causes of those problems are. Number 3, you want to categorize those problems into similar groups based on which ones have similar root causes. Number 4, you want to assign a value to each of the problems based on their impact, if they were or if they weren't resolved. So which one is making a bigger problem for you and is causing you guys more pain. And then number 5, develop a plan to focus on the top 20% of the problems that will yield 80% of the results. So what are the problems that you're having? And then identify what are the things that are really getting at you. So it doesn't matter if your life, if you feel a little off or if you don't feel like you're feeling your best or being your best, write down all the things that you think are issues in your life. Maybe you aren't exercising. Maybe you're going out to eat too much. Maybe you're spending too much money. Maybe you're not spending enough time with friends. Maybe you aren't sleeping. Maybe you're super stressed at work. Whatever it is, write it all down. And then you can figure out what are the main things that are really causing the most problems. Okay, I am eating horrible food. And so it just stems into every area of my life. I feel gross. I don't have energy. I feel more stressed. I feel anxious and I'm on like sugar rushes and sugar crashes and things like that. And so maybe that's the one thing you need to go, okay, if I eat healthier and maybe I get some sleep, I am going to feel ready, more prepared to handle the day. I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to be able to show up better. And so identify those things, but write all the problems down and then identify what those 20% are. The really cool one is that the Pareto Principle can be applied in everyday situations or in work meetings or things of that nature. And so typically in a meeting, 20% of the people are going to be doing 80% of the talking. And in addition to that, 20% of the people are going to be making 80% of the decisions. And so that's very interesting to think about. And maybe you can reflect in your own life. Does every single person really contribute to the main picture or actually decide? Does every single person talk in the meeting? And maybe there's certain situations, I know I've been in my life where we are going to have a group day or discussion and everybody's going to share what they want to share, right? But you might also find in that maybe 20% really shared something meaningful that connected with you. So there's always that rule that applies. It's crazy. And lastly, in education. So if you're a student, you can actually focus on about 20% of the material and focus studying on that specific area and subject, and you're probably going to do better on the test. You might not do the best, but you're still going to have a good likelihood and percentage of doing well. You can also use this in looking back on previous assignments and work and figure out which ones that you need to focus on that will help improve your grade and do better. Right, so overall, if you use the Pareto principle, typically there are some benefits like greater productivity. You also might have a better use of energy and a more effective use of your time and energy. You might have better problem-solving skills. You might have improved decision-making skills, and you're able to create a maximum amount of impact with smaller effort. You can also have an increased self-confidence, have more clear prioritization, and you can also have more time to do the things that you enjoy. And so there are critics of this principle. They think it's not a mathematical law and it's more of an observation. And so that doesn't mean that it is true for everything. So you're like, okay, I just got to focus on the 20%. But I do think it's something that can expand your mind, and it can be true in certain situations. And so just to be mindful of that and to not stress out if you don't focus on everything, because I think a lot of people out there can really be extremely driven or perfectionistic and want to do it all. But it's just a reminder to say, hey, actually, a lot of your results are going to come from this smaller portion, like a fifth of the effort in the work. And so if you really focus on that, and maybe you do a little bit more, that's fine. You're probably going to be okay. And so let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you like this video? Do you like this concept? Have you heard of it before? Have you seen this in your own life? Or after listening to this, is there an area that you're going to apply it to or that you think it applies to? Definitely let me know in the comments below. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and share with a friend, subscribe for more, and don't forget to hit the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. I'll be posting every day personal development, mindset tips, encouragement, wealth building tips, and anything to help you live a happier and healthier life. So thank you so much for being here. You've got this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.